Welcome, my beautiful people. This is your boy Stefan, your Afro Grenadian ambassador. I welcome you all to this special live this afternoon. And we have a special guest speaker with us who will be speaking on, well, not really speaking on, but we will be discussing on the question that some people are asking: who are the Africans that betrayed our ancestors to slavery or into slavery? So, my special guest speaker will be with me. He will be with me on. Okay, so he is indicating that he's ready. Let me. Yes, so he's here with me this afternoon. He's here with me this afternoon, and I am awaiting for him to join me on screen. I am waiting for him to join me on screen. Hmm. Wait. All right. Okay, so guys, just give me a minute. Let me.
Hello,
Yes, my dear brother, are you
can you hear
hearing
me?
me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes,
I can hear
I
you.
can hear you. I can hear you loud and clear. I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, I can hear
So,
you too.
all
Okay.
right. So, welcome to this session, this very special session. And guys, I want to introduce to you Mr. or Ambassador, what I'm saying, Anago Osho, all the way from Nigeria, and he will be discussing with us some very an important topic or question some people are asking. But before I ask him the big question of the day, I will let him introduce himself, tell us a little bit of Nigeria, where he's from, and if he's part of any organization, I'll let him do so. So, yes, my dear brother, your mic is muted. On with your mic. Yeah.
I am Ambassador Anago Osho. Uh, I'm the Vice President, Nigeria Association of Tour Operators. I became an ambassador for DNA tested African. Uh, I'm a tour guide. I'm a tour operator. I am also the president of Association of History, Nature and Culture Tour Guides Nigeria. I belong to a lot of associations and organizations. I have a tour company called Anago Show Adventures. I also have another one Global Anago Adventures Limited. So many
Yeah.
organizations I belong to. But what is important to me uh, in my work that I do is that I serve as a bridge between Africa and Africa diaspora. That is
Mm,
why my tour operation company have connected me with a lot of Africa diaspora. And I think that is my calling. I think that is one of the reasons why the Lord created me,
mm,
because like I always have this consciousness that I've been here before. I always have the consciousness that in my first life that I was a slave, that I was an enslaved person. So
mm.
the consciousness is very, very strong, and is one of the reasons why I just set that organization. I do a lot of tours, but what I really specialize on is receiving Africa diaspora in Africa, because a
Mm.
lot of them really want to come home, and we have families, and they need to connect with the right people. If you understand what I mean.
Yes, yes, that's very true, and I'm pretty much happy that you mentioned about connecting the diaspora, bridging the gap, and that is one of the reasons why I'm doing this as well, is to bridge the gap between the Caribbean and Africa, because even in my very own country, a lot of our ancestors that were brought here on the island of Grenada came from Nigeria, and
Hmm.
our society, Grenadian society, our culture is heavily influenced by the Yoruba people. We have
Wow.
Shango. We practice a lot of things when it comes to Yoruba traditions. So, can you tell us how many people have you been experiencing so far, showing interest in reconnecting back to the motherland when it comes to Nigeria?
Oh, honestly, uh, most people that visit West Africa
Mhm.
originally want to visit Nigeria, but there's a lot of international propaganda against Nigeria.
Yeah,
And let me use the word, unfortunately, the political leaders are not helping matters. You know, you begin to wonder, why will a lot of them want to come to Nigeria?
mm,
The reason why so many of them want to come to Nigeria is simply because a lot of them were actually taken from Nigeria.
yeah,
Because when you look at West Africa, for instance, we have Cote d'Ivoire,
mhm,
and they call Cote d'Ivoire, another name for Cote d'Ivoire is Ivory Coast. So
mm,
why do they call that place Ivory Coast? Because when the Europeans came, mostly what they got from there were the ivories. Why did they call Ghana Gold Coast? They
mm,
call Ghana Gold Coast because mostly what they got from Ghana. Now, it was not called Ghana that time. There was an empire by the name Ghana, which people like Kwame Nkrumah adopted, which is good to keep the name going. But the Europeans, when they got there, they call that society, that environment, they call it Gold Coast, because
yeah,
what they got from that place that we call Ghana today was gold. But what did they call Nigeria?
mm.
You want to take a guess? Do you want to take a guess?
I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure. Enlighten us.
Nigeria was referred to as the slave coast.
Oh,
Slave coast. So
wow.
if Nigeria and part of Benin were
Yeah,
referred to as the slave coast, it means that basically what they got from here, majorly around that time, were our ancestors. They were
yeah.
enslaved.
Wow.
So to answer your question, do I receive Africa diaspora in Nigeria? Yes, but it could have been more. I receive a lot of Africa diaspora in Nigeria. They still come, despite the fact that there's a lot of international propaganda against Nigeria, and in some countries discourage their citizens from coming to Nigeria. Some of them still come, and when they come to Nigeria, what they have at the back of their mind most times is usually not what they end up finding here.
Wow.
I receive a lot of them. And the first thing that they usually experience is that when we go to some places, like if we go to the
Yeah.
marketplace, people don't even see them as foreigners
Mm,
because they have seen someone somewhere that look like them.
Yeah.
until some of them begin to talk. In fact, recently I did a tour of some Americans, and we were at the market, and even their American accent didn't even betray them because
Hmm.
there are so many Nigerians in the US. So they thought they were Nigerians that live in
Right.
the US.
Wow. Wow.
So when Africa, I'm telling you,
Wow. I mean, that's interesting. That's very much interesting.
Africa diaspora visits Nigeria. When Africa
Hmm.
diaspora visits Nigeria, they will easily be assimilated. The population, because Nigeria is a place that when you walk on the street, you see hundreds, thousands of black people on the streets that look like you. So it's easy for you to be assimilated easily, and they don't see you as a foreigner. No matter the shade of your skin color, they have them here.
That's
Even if you are
wonderful.
light skinned, we
Yeah.
also have albino. So whatever
Yeah.
your skin color, they have seen someone that look like you.
Yeah.
And
That-
some of us begin to wonder why there's an international propaganda against Nigeria. Why are
yeah.
they keeping black people in diaspora from coming? Then again, like I said earlier, the political leadership need to really understand the position of Nigeria when we talk about Africa diaspora. The
Hmm.
political leadership of Nigeria in the 50s, in the 60s, in the 70s, in the 80s, in the early 90s, we are conscious of this, but we didn't know how come or how we got it wrong after a while. But yet, some people here are working toward bringing that image back so that Africa diaspora will understand that look, this is home. One of the things
Yeah.
we try to tell our people is that they should come back home.
Yeah.
Most of the
Wow.
people that have done their DNA usually have certain percentages of Nigeria in them.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
so many Africa diaspora visits, especially Americans. We have so many Brazilians coming. We have so many Cubans coming. We
Hmm.
have Jamaicans. Yes, Jamaicans. A lot of Jamaicans also visit. We have people from Barbados
Hmm.
visiting. I've taken people from Trinidad and Tobago. Everywhere we have black people, a lot of them are conscious. Some of them want to come home, but some of them will read advisory from their country not to. And why is there that major division between Africa and the Americas and the Caribbean island? There's no direct flight from anywhere in West Africa to the Americas. So if you carry a Benin passport or you carry a Nigerian passport or any country in West Africa and you want to go to St. Lucia or you want to go to Jamaica, you need to get a Schengen visa. They want you to get a Schengen visa or you get a visa of of the US or any European country before you can visit any of these places. Okay, so but these places we are talking about won't even give you their visa, and if you don't have, how will you get to the Caribbean islands? But anyway, to answer your question, I have met thousands of African diaspora that have visited Nigeria. And most times, before they leave, they always change their mindset concerning what they have heard about Nigeria. Nigeria is a very big place, and
Wow.
it's a wonderful place for African diaspora to visit.
Yeah. I'm really happy to hear that. I'm getting a feedback. Okay. So yes, I'm really happy, man. That is wonderful news to hear. Wow, I don't know where to start because you have said so much. But I just want to acknowledge my viewers. Welcome, Pedro. Welcome, Ted. Welcome, one and all who are viewing. This is our brother from India, Ambassador Anogo Osho. And I'm very much pleased to hear that a lot of diaspora Caribbeans are showing interest in returning back. And yes, and as you said, there are challenges that these people are still trying. The 1%, the Westerners are trying to keep us away from each other. That is a problem, that there are no direct flights from the Caribbean to the continent. But I just want to ask you this important question. You mentioned that you did a DNA test, an ancestry DNA test, and you discovered that there are some of your ancestors still here in the Caribbean. Can you tell us more about that? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm trying to. I can't really. I changed the headphone. I'm here, so I'm trying to change the
Okay.
headphone so that I can really hear you.
Guys, let me know if you're hearing Ambassador Anogo Osho clearly. Let me hear if you let tell me if you're hearing him clearly, all right? Indicate if you are
I
hearing him,
can
if
hear
his
you.
audio. All right, all right, you hearing me? I'm not hearing you clearly.
Yes, can you hear me? Can you
Yes,
hear me, please?
yes, I'm hearing you, but a little. Guys, can you hear? I want to ensure my viewers are hearing you clearly. Can you hear Ambassador Osho? Not clearly. They said they're not hearing you clearly. Ambassador, they're not hearing you clearly. The audio.
I can hear you, but I can't hear any other person.
Okay. Your audio, can you maybe you need to remove the headphone because they're not hearing you anymore. You hearing me? You hearing me? Hello? Right. You hearing me now? You hearing me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. All right. Yes, as I was saying is that I knew you talk about you did an ancestry DNA test and you discovered that some of your ancestors are still here in the Caribbean. Can you walk us through that? Can you tell us about that? Okay, guys, so there's some internet problem. Oh, so he's all right, guys. So our ambassador, his internet has dropped, but you know, guys, he have been sharing some vital, important information with us. So can you know, guys, bear patience. His internet is not that good, so bear patience as I try to get him back on screen. All right. And I acknowledge you. I see you, Pedro. I see you, Ched. I see all of you who are watching. Let me know where you are watching me from. And we will have after, yes, he's in Africa. He's on the continent of Nigeria, and he works with the authorities there. So he's on the continent of Nigeria. All right. I think he has a tour association that he has started in reconnecting the diasporans, Africans outside the continent to Africa, most so specifically Nigeria. So, guys, I will leave room for questions. If you have questions, go ahead, post them up, and it's an interactive session. So it's not just him and I interviewing one another, or I am interviewing him. You are a part of this as well. All right. Well, let me try to get him back on board. Yes, Pedro, I know, but we are here. Hello, Isoma, Ama. We had our special guest speaker on board, but the internet connection dropped. So, guys, bear with me as let me get him back on screen. Okay, guys. All right, so he's back. He's back. All right, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear
All
me?
right. Yes, we hearing you clearly now. We hearing you clearly now.
Okay.
Is
What was the last question?
yes. So the last question was before the internet dropped. Is that I knew you said that you did a DNA ancestry DNA test, and you discovered that some of your ancestors are still here in the Caribbean. Can you tell us more about that?
Thank you. Uh, in 20, I think it was between 2017 or 2019, I did ancestry DNA. And one of the reasons why I did my ancestry DNA was actually because of my family history. As children, my grandmother used to tell us about the involvement of my ancestors in the Owu Wars and the Daomian Wars. And a lot of them were taken away as enslaved people to the Americas. So in my house, we all grew up with that knowledge. But I never knew that it will be my lifelong occupation or profession or what I'll be doing or lifelong passion. We started traveling in my house since we were kids. My father was a traveler. He loved traveling, and he usually takes me and my brother Bobby along doing his tours. So we grew up reading tourism magazines. We knew about people. We know about anthropology. We know about different societies. We grew up with that. So, and with my grandmother, what she used to tell us, all these made me who I eventually became. But I never knew that it would be my long life occupation. So my DNA, when I did the DNA, of course, 100% African. Nigeria with high percentage, followed by Benin Republic and Togo. I was not surprised when I saw all that because I have families, I have cousins in all these places, these countries that I mentioned. And you remember that hundreds of years ago, we didn't really have boundaries. There was migration because of war, trade, business, intermarriage, and all that. People move, we migrate until the Europeans came and called us different countries. Of course, we have our own nations too, but we still move from one community to the other. So when I did my DNA, I was so excited about it. And there's a particular database. So there's the organization that gave me the ambassador that made me an ambassador. The organization, what they do is that Africans that are tested, all their data will be on a particular database. Then black people in diaspora, Africa diaspora that have also done their own DNA test, all their information will be on the same database. Okay, it's called GetMatch. GEDMATCH. GetMatch. So once they upload your data on that database, cousins, families in diaspora that are related with you will begin to connect. So the data will be giving you names, information of either your first cousin, second cousin, will even give you names. Oh, Warren Jones, second cousin. Will give you name. Anthony Hart, fourth cousin. We'll be giving you all that. And you have name. Now, what made it easy for me was that those who are my cousins in diaspora, once they found out that I'm related to them, what most of them did was that they just Google my name. They just Google my name. And when they Google my name, it gave them my phone number, everything about me. So it was
Yeah.
easy for them to connect with me,
Wow.
And I won't lie to you, brother. It's it's fulfilling for me because how I wish my grandmother is alive that I can tell her that those things she used to tell us when we were kids, that it didn't just end there. Some of our families that she told us were involved in the many wars that took place that have reconnected or that have been able to reconnect with some of them. How I wish I can just tell that woman all this because it all started with
Yeah.
her. So those that have been able to connect with during Thanksgiving, you know, we'll do a video call and the whole family will be in the sitting room, maybe in
Wow.
New Orleans and all that. And it's exciting. You see families just waving at me, and my kids will also be in the background. It's fun, and some of them will just they tell people they say, "Look, I'm a Nigerian." They tell people they are Nigerians. I say, "Look, you can tell people you're a Nigerian. You can tell people you're from Benin. You can tell people you are from Togo. You can because they are originally from here."
Yeah.
The reasons why I did the DNA test with and my information uploaded on GetMatch was because I want to reconnect with families in diaspora. That
Wow.
is the essence. That is the
Wow.
reason why I did it. And that is the reason. why I take my job passionately. When Africa Diaspora connects me that they want to visit Nigeria or they want to go to Benin or they want to visit any country in Africa, because it is my responsibility to help them. It is my responsibility to support them because they were forcefully taken. Majority of them were forcefully taken away from the motherland. And who will be there to receive them? Who will be there not just to receive them, but will treat them as a family? Because it is not just that they are tourists. You must not treat them as tourists. I treat them as family that have been away and have returned back to the motherland. We need to really understand that because
Yeah.
there are so many things that have been written negatively about Africa, about the
Yeah.
motherland, even today. And
Yeah.
some of us need to take that position. We need to take that responsibility of being there for families in diaspora. Like I used to tell people, I say, if you go to New York, the Irish community in New York, they are big, but they still have connection to the families in Ireland.
Mm.
The Italian communities in New York and other places in the US are very big, and they
Wow.
still have connection with Italy.
Mm.
What about us, Africa diaspora? What about us, black people in diaspora? Black people in in the Caribbean islands, black people in North Africa, in North America, black people in Central America, black people all over the world. Do we have that connection with our families in the motherland? Some people are against DNA test. I understand their reasons. Okay,
Mm.
there's nothing wrong if they don't like it. But the reason why I did mine was for Africa diaspora that are connected, that are related with me, to be able to connect with me. So that once they're able to connect with me, it's easy for them to know they have a family in Africa. And if they are able to connect with me, and when they come here, their family, their blood family is here, and I can easily show them to the rest of the family,
Yeah.
and even though they are still there, they want to relocate or they want to have properties here, they want to have land, they want to have their own land, they want their children to grow up here, or they want to be coming, maybe for vacation and all that. They have someone or some people that are their family, that are blood related. Now, I
Yeah.
also tell people, even some may not be able to connect with those that they are related with by blood, but you can at least come, imbibe a culture, and be assimilated to it. The most important thing is for us to reconnect with the motherland. There are good things from the motherland. We should learn about it. Some time ago, I met someone from far south. I can't remember the name of. It's in South America. Is it Suriname? I can't remember. Maybe Suriname. I can't remember, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Mm.
far. Maybe it's Suriname, but I can't really remember. But far in South America. But that
Mm.
place, they speak English. And
Oh.
the woman told, yeah, they speak English. I can't really remember
It's
that
probably it's
country.
probably it's probably Guyana because the only speaking English speaking country in South America is Guyana.
Maybe it's Guyana. Maybe it's
Yeah.
Guyana. So
Yeah.
maybe it's Guyana. And if it is not Guyana, it will be a country maybe in the lesser Antilles, in the
Yeah.
Caribbean island. It will be
Okay.
somewhere there. But they speak English. While we were talking, we were drinking, and when we opened the drink, somebody was making prayer, and we opened the drink, and we pour the drink on the floor. She just looked at us and said, "Do you know we do that too in the Caribbean?" You
But
understand?
a matter of
So
fact, we do it here in Grenada as well. We do it here in
you
Grenada
understand? So
because there is
where do you think?
we
Where do
have
you
just
think?
yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
Where do you think? Where do you think you got that idea from?
From you
It's
guys.
from the motherland.
Yeah.
Because when the ancestors were taken from Africa, they took the way of life with them. They didn't
Yeah.
just let go of everything. So
Hmm.
some of the things we do, like attitude, some of the characteristics that you have over there is in your DNA.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
when we do that, and when you pour the drinks on the floor, is we are paying respect to the ancestors.
Okay. Yes,
So
yeah.
when she saw us do that, she was like, she was so surprised. She said, you guys do this too. And immediately I responded, I say, what do you mean you guys do this too? We all do it. You do it over there because it's in your DNA. The ancestors, when they left, they continue to act that way. It is who we are. So I don't know you do that too over there.
Yeah, we do it too because we have something. Because remember, a lot of our ancestors didn't only, and the majority of them came from Nigeria, but a lot of them came from other parts of Africa as well. A lot of Grenadians were able to trace back their ancestry to Sierra Leone as well. And
Okay.
what over the we have something here called Saraka, right? This was a tradition originated from Sierra Leone, where it's just the community come together with all what they have, and they cook and they eat, and everybody enjoy themselves. That is some of the things our ancestors leave for us. And every year during Saraka, they will open the liquor. It's like rum or something,
Okay.
that drink, and they would
Okay.
pour it on the ground. And they
Okay.
we were taught that the symbol behind this, or the significance behind this, is showing respect to our ancestors that came here. You
Yes.
know,
Yes.
so
Yes. Yes.
I mean, it's not surprising. It's surprising and yet not surprising to hear you say that. To hear you say that. So I want to move on to another question. Is let me my viewers are watching, so I want to interact them because this is an interactive session as well. Pedro, I want
Okay.
to highlight this Pedro. Okay, Pedro has says ask him about. I can't really pronounce that name, but I think you maybe know. Yeah, are you seeing
Efoye
it?
Chinumbu. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes. I've seen it.
yeah.
I've seen it. Okay. Okay. Thank you. If Madam Efoye Chinumbu, see, I'm so excited to hear someone over there mention the name. It is high time that we begin to appreciate each other. And one of the things I do in my tours, especially my slave history tour, my African history tour, is that I try to give a different narration. I try to tell our story from the African point of view. Most of what we have read were written by some people about us. So it is important for us to begin to talk about ourselves, for us to tell our story our way, not somebody telling our story. Now, Madam Efoye Tinumbu uh, of blessed memory was originally from a place called Abeokuta. Abeokuta is in today's Ogun State, not far from Lagos. Okay, Abeokuta. Anyway, in Jamaica, there's a place in Jamaica called Abeokuta. There's another place in Gambia on Makati Island called Abeokuta. But the
Okay.
original Abeokuta is in Nigeria. Okay, so but how come we have Abeokuta in Jamaica and we have Abeokuta on Makati Island in the Gambia? Okay, just all that, just remind me so that we can talk about all that later. But who is Efoye Tinubu? Efoye Tinubu was a successful business merchant who at the time was also a slave trader. She was doing business with the colonizers, she was doing business with the Europeans, and she was a big time slave trader. But it got to a time that she began to have problems with the Europeans. After
Mm,
a time, black people in diaspora began to return back home to West Africa. A lot of them were leaving the Americas. They were going to Freetown, Sierra Leone, and they were going to Liberia. Don't forget that Freetown, Sierra Leone was established by the British. It was established by England, and Liberia was set up by the United States of America. Okay, and the capital of Liberia was Monrovia, and it was because now they got the name Monrovia from the American president of that time by the name of James Monroe. And Freetown, Sierra Leone was set up by England. by the British. And Sierra Leone was actually the capital of the English speaking West Africa. Okay, a lot of ancestors were also going back there, and some of them were returning through Sierra Leone back to Lagos, back to Abeokuta, back to Oyo, back to Port Harcourt, back to other places in the interland. Okay, and when some of them were coming back, people like Madame Tinumbu, Efoye Tinubu, began to meet them, and they were narrating their ordeal. They were narrating their stories, their experiences in the Americas to someone like her. Honestly, some of these people didn't even know what they were using those. They were taken
Wow.
away from the motherland. They didn't even know what they were doing, using them for. I'm not trying to justify their actions, but we are discussing. So we need to pinpoint some of these things. They didn't even know what they were using them for. So when some of them began to return back to the colony of Lagos, Madam Tinubu met some of them, and they had scars and they have symbols on their body. Now, those symbols on their body, those scars on their body, were called slave branding.
Mm.
Slave branding. So
Yeah.
they had the branding of their masters on their body. Some of those markings were so terrible and big. Some of those scars were huge. So around that time, someone like Madame Tinubu began to meet them, ask questions. They now have knowledge of what they were using them for in the Americas. So Madame Tinubu eventually began to separate herself from the Europeans. She begins to have problem with them, and she unconsciously she began to agitate. So, and there were crises in the interland, and she was a successful businesswoman who used to sell gunpowder, who used to sell gun. Now, where do they get those guns from? Where do they get the gunpowder from? Of course, from the Europeans.
Right.
And she was selling it to the people in the interland.
And I
And
want to ask
European
I want to ask you what some of the things that um some of the other Africans were trading the brothers and sisters to Europeans. What was this for? Or what was the things that the Europeans were bribing them with?
no, you need to understand that when you say some of the Africans
Mm.
were selling, were involved in it, we should be careful of that
Okay.
statement.
Right.
I'm not saying they were not involved. I'm not saying they didn't do that, but
Okay.
we have to be very careful. We have to
Okay.
be careful of that because
Mm.
it may give a very wrong connotation. It is exactly what happened in the case of people like Madame Tinubu because she
Mm.
herself, let's use her as a case study to answer the question. Now,
Yeah.
she was doing all that, and the Europeans were exchanging items like bottle of gin, umbrella,
Mm.
iron, mirror, etc. for human beings through someone like her. Okay, but you see, it got to a time that some of them realized what they were using them for,
Yeah.
and they didn't want to do business with them. Some continued, but some of
This.
them didn't want to. And now,
Mm.
someone like Madame Tinubu, she used to sell gunpowder. And you see, the Europeans that came, you
Yeah.
must understand that when they first came, you
Yeah.
must understand that they have a purpose. They have a
Right.
purpose for coming. One of the
Yeah.
purpose for now, how do we know that they have a purpose for coming? The slaving instruments they were used were not
Wow.
produced in Africa.
Well, yeah.
They were not produced here. They were produced from Europe, from places like Bristol, from places like Liverpool, from places like Lisbon, and places we don't even know about. And they have all
Wow.
those things on their ship. You need to understand that they came here for a purpose, for economic purpose. So whatever happens was just preamble. They already have their mission for coming. So if they come, They became friends with you. They want to do business with you. They already have their reason for coming. They understudied the Arabs.
Wow.
When we talk about slave trading, the
Yeah.
Arabs were in Africa for over 1,400 years.
Mhm.
The Europeans understudied the Arabs. And what they did was that they perfected slavery. And it's one of the reasons why they came with those slaving instruments. For example, items such as the umbrella were used in exchange for human beings in West Africa.
Mm.
The Europeans learned about it from the Arabs.
Wow.
And they told them, now in medieval Europe, it was fashionable for the ladies to use little umbrella and they put it around their head for fashion.
Yeah.
But in the Arabia, in East Africa and the Arabia, chiefs use the umbrella. And don't forget that in the Arab world, there are so many ethnic groups and they have chiefs. They also have kingdoms too. They have sultanate. They have different names they call it. They have their emirates and the rest. So they are used to, they use umbrellas. So the Europeans learn about it from them and sold the ideas to the African chiefs. And they told them, you need something to differentiate you from the ordinary subject, from the ordinary people. And
Wow.
items like this were used in exchange for human beings.
Wow.
Now, who determines the value of the umbrella? People who are coming to sell determines that.
Mm.
When the Europeans came, now when they came, the first time they came, the first big business was between 1441 and 1444. It was the sailors of Prince Henry the Navigator who first came, and the first set of enslaved people that his men took were taken from around Senegal, Mauritania area. But because they were forcefully taken away from Africa, they were forcefully taken away. So they were wounded. They have wounds all over their body. And when they were taken to Lisbon, Prince Henry the Navigator said, "Oh, we are not. Why did you do this to them? We are Christians. You are not supposed to do this." But along the line, people came to him and they were interested in buying those black people. And even around those times, they have problems with the Arabs because the
Mm.
Arabs have already taken over. They've already taken over Spain. The Arabs were in Spain for over 600 years. They were at war with the Arabs. So he realized that they could also make money through that. That was how it started from there. And when they were coming, the major kingdoms in Africa were actually in the hinterland. In the beginning, they didn't allow them to anchor their ships, but they were very intelligent. They say, "Oh, we are researchers, we are anthropologists, we are archaeologists. Allow us to stay close to our ship so that we can just study the environment." They allow them to stay close to their ship. But you see, why they allow them to stay close to their ship? That was when they realized that, oh, these black people don't even speak the same language. Oh, these black people even have different ethnic groups.
Yeah.
Oh, these black people even fight intertribal wars among themselves. They learned all those things and they took advantage of it. And what
Right.
they did, what they did was that now they will look for a kingdom that is
Mm-hmm.
not too big, a
Mm-hmm.
kingdom that is at war with maybe a bigger kingdom, or a kingdom that is not friendly with another kingdom. So they become friend with a particular kingdom and they make them feel like they love them and they understand their pain. They show them the power of the guns.
Yeah.
They give them European materials, things they don't know about, things they have not seen. They give them all those things. It's
So
those
can
people
we,
they
we
use.
we can safely say what I'm gathering from what you're saying is that even though yes, it might be a fact that some Africans were involved, but they were manipulated in doing what they did. Some of them were forced to do what they did. So that is what I'm gathering. So guys, that is very important. My viewers, I hope that you are listening because what were told to us in the history books, we are hearing this brother here telling us something completely different. And you can see how these people have, watered down the history that they have given to us, and it's not the truth. But I'm really happy that Ambassador Osho is really touching on these points. So my dear brother, I really appreciate that. So you could go ahead. Yeah.
So it's through those kingdoms
Mhm.
or those groups that they were able to find their way to the interland because they don't know how to get to the interland. So they needed a native, they needed someone to take them to the interland. And recently, I've been telling people about abolition. When we talk about slavery abolitionists, how come we are not talking about African abolitionists? They were African abolitionists. The image they gave the world, or they gave black people all over the world. Now, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not saying that there were no Africans from the motherland, they were involved in some of these atrocities. But I'm just giving you the background of how it all began, what happened. We need to understand that. And that was why I told you that even before they left Europe, they had slaving instruments on their slave ships. They have all that, and those things were not produced here in the motherland. So they don't know how to get to the interland. So they need someone from here to take them to the interland. And the major kingdoms are in the interland. So they use us to get what they want. But it's not every one of us. Some kingdoms did not work with them. And don't
Yeah.
forget that any kingdom that refuse to play balls with them automatically becomes their enemy.
There were
Any kingdom,
what was some kingdom did some kingdoms rebel, like fight against when some of our kings back then or kingdoms recognized what they came to do, what was the real true motive, did they rebel against them?
of course,
Yeah.
not all kingdoms rebel against them. But the first problem was that when they came, now you need to really understand that Africans, we Africans, we all also have our own ego. And some of these kingdoms were big kingdoms
Right.
with populations and all that. Now imagine another kingdom coming from the other side of the Atlantic Ocean, giving them instructions. Now I'm a king of a place, you come from another kingdom, and you are giving me instructions of what to do. That was where the first problem began. Because anywhere they go to, they want to take control of such environment. So they were having problem with some of these big kingdoms. So it wasn't as a result of, it wasn't just slavery. They forcefully took the land of some of these kingdoms. They took their land because those ones didn't want to listen to them. Those ones didn't want to take instructions from them. So because they didn't want to take instruction for them, there was trouble. So they forcefully took them. Yes, there were kingdoms that fought against them. If you study Senegal, I can't remember the name. There was a particular Muslim chief in Senegal who did not allow them to take Muslims. They fought wars with them. In fact, there was a time that there's a place in Nigeria called Benin Kingdom. There was a time that the king of Benin realized that that a lot of people from Benin were being sold into slavery, and the king refused at a time, at a generation, he refused that his own people be taken away as slaves. There were kingdoms, and let me use Badagry as a case study. In Badagry, there's a family. We call them the Wawu of Badagry. They rose up against the Europeans. The Wawu of Badagry rose up against the Europeans. They were doing business. Now, when I say business, I mean slave business in Badagry. In Badagry, there are 8 quarters in Badagry. And in each of those quarters, the Europeans have affiliation. They affiliate with each of the 8 quarters in Badagry. And what was the business transaction like? It was slave trading. Okay, so the English, the Dutch, the Portuguese, uh, the French, they became
Wow.
partners with each of the quarters. Now it got to a time that the Wawu rose up against the Europeans, but do you know what they did? They now ignited the people against the Wawu. In fact, if you get to Badagry, in front of the compound of the Wawu compound, you see 2 cannon guns with the inscription of the name of Wawu.
Okay, guys. So
They were
our brother
propagating
internet.
abolition of the slave trade. Okay,
Just, I
it
was just,
became
I was just saying, we lost you for a moment. We lost, but you're back.
can you come again?
I said we lost you for a moment. Your internet dropped, but you're back. So I'm happy that you're back.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so what I mean is, after, like in Badagry, using Badagry as an example, in Badagry there are 8 quarters in Badagry. Now each of these quarters have affiliation with Europeans. Now those Europeans, they were there. What were they doing? The Europeans there were slave traders. Okay, now they collaborate with local people, really. Okay, they did that, but there was the Wawu family. The Wawu family rose up against other Europeans, and the other Europeans now ignited, they instigated the local people against their own people who were against slave trading. Now, do you think Europeans will write about the Wawu that rose up against them? Of course, they didn't write anything about the Wawu, that the Wawu family rose up against them because they were involved. Now, that is by the way. Another incident happened in Badagry that involved Richard Lander. Richard Lander was one of the men of Huge Clapperton. Huge Clapperton was one of the vicaries of England, and Richard Richard Lander came through Badagry. He was actually going to Katunga, that we call Oyo, in the hinterland of Yoruba land. But as soon as other Europeans in Badagry found out that Richard Lander was in Badagry, they quickly met the king. Do you know why they reported him to the king? They reported him to the king because Richard Lander was a man of huge Clapperton, and they were abolitionists supporting the British to stop slave trading. So when they saw Richard Lander, who was actually going to Oyo, but he was passing through Badagry, they thought, so they quickly went to meet the king of Badagry that time and reported Richard Lander. Now, who reported Richard Lander? Fellow Europeans. Why did they report Richard Lander to the king of Badagry, the African? Because they were slave traders, and they don't want slave trading to end. So when they
Hmm.
saw Richard Lander, they thought he was a spy who came to see what they were doing in that place. So when they reported him to the king sent his men, and Richard Lander was arrested. When Richard Lander was arrested, he was taken to the palace, and the king told him and said, "Look, your men, your people reported you to me. They say that you are a spy. I don't know you, but your people said you are a spy. Well, we don't know if you have anything negative against us, but we have our own ways of doing things. We will give you a concussion. When we give you this concussion and you drink the concussion, if you are an upright man, if you didn't bring evil or problem to us, nothing will happen to you. But if everything they have said about you is true, if you drink this concussion, something terrible will happen to you."
Wow.
So the
Yeah.
chief priest gave Richard Lander the concussion. He drank the concussion and nothing happened to him, meaning that his own people lied against him. Immediately, he continued his journey to Oyo. He didn't stay back in Badagry. He continued. Why I'm bringing that story is because nobody talks about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody talks about events that happen like that.
Yeah.
Universally, they say, oh, Africans sold Africans. But
Mm.
in every village, in every African town, when we talk about slave history, it differs from one village to the other. It differs from one town to the other. It differs from one village to the other. So when they say Africans sold Africans, it means
Okay, so we have lost him again. So guys, this is some deep stuff. There's a lot of things I'm learning. I'm really learning some deep stuff our brother is mentioning here. We have lost him, so let me see if we can. I can get him back. So that is some deep stuff, guys. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I'm lost of words. I'm really lost of words. You know, we are hearing it from the horse's mouth. This is a guy, a Nigerian, who is on the continent. He's not in America or the UK. You know, he's right in the actual place where these things take place. You know, the trading, you know, the selling of slaves and stuff. And yeah, so there are some deep stuff about that. So guys, let me see if I could. His internet has dropped, so guys, don't be feel free if there's any questions you want to ask him. Go ahead, all right, because it's coming from the horse's mouth, Pedro. Yes, I understand, Pedro. Um, but that is some deep stuff I'm hearing there. Deep stuff. You know, not okay. We have lost him. We have lost him. Yes, guys, I hope that you're learning. I hope that you know, there's a lot of things. I never heard these things that he's mentioning when it comes, and that is in regards to the slave trade. A lot. So the slave trade is more than what they told, what they tell us in the history books. You know, so it's really surprising. It's really surprising. Yes, Pedro, I see, but there's I'm trying to get him back. I'm trying to get him back. I'm not seeing him coming back at the moment. All right, so guys, just give me a minute. Let me try to get. So I'm trying to get him back, guys. Isioma, welcome, Isioma Ama. Thank you very much for joining the live chat. Thank you, Pedro. You're always here. It's me, the channel. Thank you very much. Boom Jungle Wood. Thank you, my dear sister. I see you. I see you in the comment section, guys. Don't feel I don't see you. I see you. All right. I do appreciate it, but I'm trying to get him back. All right, guys. So I will have to end it here. I will have to end it here, guys. We will have to end it here. Next time, I will be back. Take care.